What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is we're just hearing new music, new stories, making new connections because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about sitting here talking about other singer-songwriters' story through music and just how they kind of came about in music and what their creative process is kind of like and just what else we can kind of expect down the road from them. So kind of without further ado, today's guest is Jenny Grace. Jenny, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
And not too bad. First off, I always just love thanking artists just for taking time out of their day to sit here and kind of talk about their story through music. It always just means a lot when I reach out to artists or artists reach out to me and just want to be a part of the series because back in 2020, kind of when I started everything, I never really thought that it would pan out to be what it has become. So thank you just for kind of being a part of this and to take time out of your day to talk about your story.
Thank you so much.
No, of course. So kind of just hopping right into the first question is always the basic of basics and kind of just really sets up the whole interview is where did everything kind of come about for you? Because I know for some people it starts at such an early age. They start singing and humming nursery rhymes the day they were born and then slowly start learning instruments and just develop their craft from then on. And then I like to compare it to someone like myself who really only started back in 2018 with the whole songwriting and producing aspect of things. So, just kind of how did singing and playing kind of really come about for you?
I did it as a kid naturally, but I really didn't take it seriously. So I was about 20 years old when I saw a true meaning to do it. I served in the military, and when I was overseas, I found it was really calming to play the guitar and sing. And I realized, okay, there's more than just being famous and having a career with that. I can actually heal myself, heal others with music. And that's when I realized there was more of a purpose for it rather than when I was a child. I just felt like, okay, well, everyone's telling me to sing. So what's the point? So I could be famous, right? But then I saw that kind of connection. So
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. It's always so cool to just hear how people really start in the music industry because I've said it 100 times before, but you can sit there and listen to an artist and be like, "Oh wow, like that's like a great song, like cool artist." But it's always really cool to sometimes just hear the background and how they started singing and kind of how everything really came about.
yeah,
Um
that's my story.
Yeah, no, and it's always awesome. And especially looking at other artists and stuff like that too, is talking about inspirations. I tell people all the time, I could sit here and talk to you for hours about who has inspired me throughout my career in songwriting and producing and stuff like that. A lot of people know that I love country music. That's what I was born and raised on, that 90s, early 2000s. But then I always like to go to the rock and roll side a little bit as like Nickelback, Chris Daughtry, like Three Doors Down, just a few of them, like huge inspirations for me as well. So kind of my second question for you is who were some inspirations that you kind of really look up to when it comes to singing and songwriting?
I really like Chris Stapleton. I like his free form of kind of like country music. And as a child, I listened to Randy Travis. My parents had it on all the time, Patsy Cline. And I think I really took an understanding to how great these singers were, because other genres, I think you can kind of hide behind auto tune and stuff. But if you're
Yeah.
on the you can't have auto tune on the opera. You got to be able to sing. So I always kind of appreciated that about country music.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's awesome. It's just, Chris Stapleton, a fantastic songwriter. There's not a lot wrong I can say about that guy, honestly. He's done it all from songwriting to finally getting his songs out there as well. And
Right.
in country music, the songwriting process is just really what draws me in is that whole storytelling aspect when it comes to songs. Is if I can just sit here and listen to a song that you can just picture in your head from start to finish, almost like reading a book or watching a movie or something like that. It's just the songwriting process in country music is just so different compared to a lot of these other genres that you have. Um, and is kind of leading into my third question is what is your creative process like when it comes to writing music, because I know for so many artists there is no rhyme or reason to the process really. From all the artists that I've talked to, it's just some people start with a melody and then work on the lyrics from there, but then some people start with the lyrics like myself and then find a melody from there. So kind of what is your whole creative process like when it comes to making music?
Yeah, so I kind of it differs. Sometimes I'll hear a melody, and then if I hear a melody, I gotta write it down, and then I'll start singing it. So as a singer, I think I'll hear like the song, I'll hear the melody, and I'll hear a chorus with lyrics. And then sometimes I just write lyrics, but normally it's like a concept that comes to my mind, and then I will kind of get it down. And I also have a co-writer that I work with sometimes, Brian, who will sometimes come up with compositions, and then I'll just write lyrics to that. So it really can differ. But in the past, it was just like a melody in my head. But you know, it's whatever I'm feeling.
No, exactly. I mean, it's just like I said, it's always so cool just to really hear people's creative process, because it's an art to be able to sit here and songwrite. I mean, because I've just talked about this on a couple episodes ago, is if there was a book on how to songwrite, then everyone would be able to do it. But it's just an art and a gift that people just bring to other people. And at the end of the day, especially me as a songwriter, is if I can write something that's going to help and affect other people in ways that I'm going through as well, then at the end of the day, that's what I feel like a successful songwriter is.
Absolutely.
So getting to the fourth question, which is always one of my favorites, and it's always the hardest question that I do ask on the show. And I always say, thank God I'm the one asking the questions and not answering. But at the end of the day, there are so many artists out there. It doesn't matter what genre you're in, whether you're in rap, pop, R&B, country music, obviously, but with platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, all that fun stuff, it's hard to really get your name out there and say, "Hey, this is me." And there are hundreds and thousands of artists just doing the same thing as you. So, my question for you is kind of at the end of the day, what makes you you compared to all these other artists, and what can we kind of take away from your music that we're not going to find in someone else's music?
Yeah, so I would say that I don't really stick to any formula, and I don't copy other people. I try to just do what is Jenny Grace, like kind of like my own kind of form of music. I like to call it free form, kind of like Chris Stapleton, because with my latest single, you can kind of hear it that it just has so many different elements, and I don't sound like country radio. I don't sound like pop country radio. It's just kind of like my own thing, and I don't think anyone's wrong for doing pop country or for doing something that's like country radio, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like when I write and I'm part of the production, like I was for this last song, it just kind of it's kind of like my brand, like my kind of free form and like mood and whatever. So you'll get that anywhere. If you have a producer, it's going to sound different than if you had a different producer, obviously. But
Yeah.
I feel like I really do a lot of the compositions too. Like other artists might not do that, but I really like will write the guitar parts, I'll write the keyboard parts, I'll do all that. So
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. It's always just I always love asking that question, because it really just shapes who the artist actually is as a person and just what they want other people to take away from their music, because it's just such a powerful thing to be able to sit there and write music and share it with other people that you don't even know. You just put your music out there and hope that you can get those streams and hope that you can touch an audience of more people, and by the end it's super super cool just to really see how artists can grow. And that question is just always one of my favorites to ask on the show.
absolutely.
Getting to the fifth and final question actually here before we listen to some live music, which is always my favorite part of the interview, is hearing some good old music. But kind of looking towards your future a little bit, is what are some of your short-term and long-term goals, and just what else can we kind of expect from you down the road?
Yeah, so short term, I would say to slowly release all this music I've been writing, and I had in the works for years. I'm going to be releasing a new song every couple of months. My next one will come out in February. And so doing that, and then hopefully, getting more tours in the future, like next year, and signing with a major label would be the goal for next year and the year after. We've been in talks with some people about publishing and all that. So that would be really nice because I think I'm finally ready. I mean, people don't understand, but I've actually been working at this for about 10 years.
Mhm.
But I just haven't really put myself out there and put recordings out until 2019. But I really have done my own thing for a very long time with different bands in Connecticut. And then when I eventually made the move to Nashville in 20, actually this year, 2022. So, I hope that finally it's going to pay off and we'll see if we can get in that right direction. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of your song that you do have out, which is what we are going to listen to in here just a second, is Ghost. I mean, you're a super talented songwriter, super talented singer, and honestly, I just can't wait to see what else kind of comes for you down the road.
Thank you so much.
No, of course. So kind of before we listen to your song Ghost, if you want to just kind of tell us a little bit about how this song kind of came about, and then we will take a listen to it.
Sure. So, it kind of been a mood. I've always been a writer. Like I did poetry as a kid and stuff like that. And I wrote short stories and all that. So I feel like I do have that storyteller vibe to my writing. And so, the story is that it came from a very bad breakup and to the point where we never actually got to be together, me and the person, and then we actually never even had closure, but we had this great love. So to me, all I can say, it was a ghost story rather than a love story because I'm still haunted by it and it's still powerful, but it's not, there's no closure. And when ghosts come back to haunt, they don't have closure. So I just kind of had that whole theme going on, and oddly enough it came out right around Halloween. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So kind of without further ado, always my favorite part of the episode is hearing some music. So without further ado, we are going to take a listen to Ghost by Jenny Grace.
did you think it would be easy to pretend you don't care? To forget about our past and hide away in your fear. You know you were never the same when you saw me for the first time. And the years go by, you live in denial. And how's it feel when they still bring up my name? I haunt you day and night. I follow you around instead. Though you try to run and hide, you realize the truth is found. And even though you made me a ghost, something inside me died. Well, baby, I never felt so alive. But does she know about the games you
So that's a little bit of Ghost by Jenny Grace. I mean, the title just says it all. I mean, like I already like I mean, just from your vocals, I already have chills. But like it's such a chilling and haunting song, kind of like you said. Like and the title obviously fits that perfectly, and it's definitely going on my playlist, and I will be listening to that one for sure for a while.
Thank you so much.
No, of course. So that kind of wraps everything up, but kind of before I do my little outro here is where can people kind of go check you out on social medias?
Yeah, so you can go to my website at jennygracemusic.com, and then you have the whole platforms. And then my social media for Instagram is Jenny Grace Official, Facebook is Jenny Grace Official, and TikTok is Jenny Grace Official. And then YouTube, you just type in Jenny Grace. So
Awesome. Jenny, again, thank you so much just for kind of taking time out of your day to sit here, talk about your story, and just kind of talk about what you're doing in the music business right now.
sounds great. Thanks so much, Andrew.
No, of course. So that kind of wraps up another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern. We got new music, new stories, new artists. Never know who's gonna pop through, and we're slowly getting to that 100 goal mark. So stay tuned for next week, and thanks for tuning in today.